Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Familywood Podcast. I'm pumped for today's guest that most of you probably know. As I said to him earlier, the man, the myth, and the legend. Thanks for joining the Familywood Podcast, Stacey Petersen.
Thanks a lot, Ross. That's hilarious. There's going to be like 11 people. I know that guy. If that.
Maybe 12. Come on. Yeah, Stacey, you have your MSW, if I recall the signature.
Yeah, I'm RSW. I'm the CEO at Cedars Recovery on Vancouver Island. About 35 years in the field. I was headhunted out here 4 years ago. I was the executive director at Fresh Start Recovery Center in Calgary for 18 years. Prior to that, I was at another organization, Simon House Recovery, before that for a decade. Love it here at Cedars. Love what we do, who we are, and get to find individuals such as yourself, Ross.
Thanks, Stacey. I appreciate that. So you're in Cobble Hill on Vancouver Island?
Yes, absolutely.
You relocated your family there from Calgary?
Yeah, hold on. Let's do this. I know you're like, hey man, I'm doing a show. You can't do that.
No.
Gives you an idea of some of it out there.
We're going to talk about Cedars today, and quickly. It's a nice big facility, big property that has a feel of coziness.
Yeah. So yeah, it was great having you here touring around and everything. I mean, when the patients come here and staff, they I've heard it said the place is magical, and there's a large land-based component. We have on-site elders, we have sweat lodge, we have a 30-foot teepee, we do sacred fire. There's a number of different ceremonial things that we do, which is a big part of my own story. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I just celebrated 38 years, and I've spent a lot of time in First Nations communities doing ceremony, things like that. So there is a feel here. And I mean, we have 60 acres. There's 5 kilometers of walking trails. And it's different from where I came from because it's like summer camp. You've got all these log buildings that house our individuals, and then all these other buildings that have our, administration and our counseling pods and things like that, lecture hall. So, and it's spread out on this campus. So I consider this like the University of Recovery. You are on Recovery campus, So welcome to the U of R. And again, one of the things that I think we're so blessed to have here, man, is that we've got a full recovery continuum. One of the things that I didn't experience in Alberta was having our own medical detox. So we've got the medical director, other physicians, psychiatry, 24-hour nursing, and then our clinical team. So you go stabilization into clinical. It's an individualized treatment process. You can stay 55, 60, 90 days, whatever that is, whatever it looks like for you. About 50% of our beds are publicly funded now, which yay, that's fantastic. The owners, Cedars owners are, one of the reasons I even accepted the gig is because their hearts were all about recovery. It wasn't about the money for them. So in terms of being reasonable for a treatment cost, we are probably one of the most reasonable you would find. Post-treatment, we also have continuing care that follows each individual for a full year.
Which is so important. So important.
Totally. Certified recovery coach that goes with them for a full year. And when we built out the alumni program, which is, in Calgary, what we built there was just breathtaking. And so some of that stuff.
You have an excellent track record of building out those long-term programs, right?
Get super uncomfortable, or not that I don't feel worthy of like, hey, good job, pat on the back or anything like that, because I'm cool with that. I love who I am. That's great. I think the minute that you're like, I've got all the answers, it's time for the long sleep. And the reality is when you're the CEO or executive director, you're not in charge.
And the team gets the credit.
Direction every single day, because I think the work that we get to do is far greater than all of us. And if you're in one of these chairs and you're in a position to help others, it is definitely a calling.
And a privilege too.
Exactly.
I ran into a business acquaintance of mine from 15 years ago the other night.
Yeah.
Who said to me, hey, I see that you've turned your recovery into giving back. And I thought, what an honor to be able to.
Prison.
Yay! Wow, we were a little worried about you there, It was one of those pats on the back.
Yeah.
You talk about the U of R, I like that. The campus of recovery, which is really in line with much of the contemporary mindset around um, like recovery communities.
Yeah. I think when I look at you're speaking about the stuff in Alberta and that as well. And
But big places, lots of land and connected to Mother Nature.
yeah. I mean, that concept has been around in lots of different communities, First Nations communities for a long, long time, man. I mean, we talk about the opposite of addiction being connection, but I like to talk about unity. So when I think about all the different organizations that are out there, for profit, not for profit, whatever, someone said to me recently, "Hey man, you don't compete with anybody." And I said, "No, I don't. And why would I? Why would we? Like, as far as I can tell, the addiction issue on our planet isn't getting any better.
It's an everyone issue.
Like, and so we need actually more people to be able to provide good service than less."
Stacey, I was explaining to a psychiatrist this morning the number of beds that are available for really high quality care in Canada, like that tier 1 care. I counted it up in my head, but we're talking like 1,000 to 2,000 beds available across the country in that like T1 bracket for a country of 40 million people.
Well, so I mean, think about it like this. It's funny because I was just having this conversation at lunch. We were talking, it was a licensing conversation we were having, and how the different facilities fit into the different ministry. Like, you have seniors, well, they take the addictions, the beds. And then I think in Alberta, we were child and family services for licensing for a lot of years. And that's because, well, where do we put those people? You know what I mean? Where do we house those people? And the stigma attached, you would think, is 2025, got to be going away. I mean, a decade ago, through the National Recovery Advisory Council in Ottawa, we did the Life and Recovery Survey. It's still online. You can find it through CCSA, and it said over 70% of the people didn't ask for help because they were going to be judged. It was the stigma, right? And the reason being is that people just simply don't understand addiction as a chronic brain disorder. And, and you're going to have people that'll just flame me for, "It's a disease. You can't say it's a disease." Well, I mean, there's irrefutable science, but like, forget about that. And there's also epigenetics involved too. So your environment can change your brain chemistry, thereby making you more susceptible to addiction by about 400%. Or you can have a genetic predisposition. Or you can win the lottery and you can have both. So what we're talking about in recovery is, and people are like, "Well, you got harm reduction, you got stop that. Let's stop that." There's a continuum. And harm reduction is somewhere in that continuum. Let's meet people where they're at, but let's not leave them there.
Let's not let them die.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I sat with a father who was doing CPR on his son for 45 minutes until the paramedics arrived. And I have two really good friends who lost their sons after a year of. So opioid agonist therapy, I think, is important, but not forever. And I mean, if British Columbia, the opioid overdose deaths per capita exceed the entire United States. Let that sink in. British Columbia per capita, the opioid overdose deaths more than the entire United States combined per capita.
So you've been at this a couple of years now, 1 or 2, and you've seen the progression of recovery. Where are we at that still needs improvement, and where are we at that deserves a big celebration?
Yeah, Ross, I mean, it's a good question. And so here's, I mean, I basically started working in the field in 1989, right? And when it was like, really, I remember having professionals being like, "What's it like to work with those people?" And I'm a recovering addict. I'd be like,
I am one of those
"I don't know, let me
people.
tell you. I don't, you tell me." So I talk a little bit about the stigma. I do think that has changed to a degree. I mean, you've got Bell Let's Talk and everything. We've got a lot of the merge with addiction and mental health. There is a bit of a movement. People, we don't want to say addiction because it's just so demeaning. Come on. I mean, children understand the word addiction. They don't understand substance use disorder. They don't understand that, but they understand addiction. So I think, it's funny. It's like, there's a few of these not old, but people that have been around that are, 30 plus years in the field and doing the deal. And we have these conversations, And then there's a raft of new people that kind of enter the field
The waves. Yeah.
yeah, and they want, and so I think what's important is that we stay connected so that we can say, look at, like we talked about that 20 years ago, we're still talking about it. We need to shift over here, right? And we actually need to see some results. But
Results matter. We're gonna talk about a research article in a couple of minutes here,
all
because every
right,
week I spotlight a piece of research, and the research found,
yeah,
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it was like when family intervention and ongoing support services are part of recovery treatment,
yeah.
that recovery success rates improve by like 5%.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the percentage is.
But that was what the article says. But 5%, and at first, my first gut reaction, frankly, was like only 5%. And then I think about 5% of how many people are trying to enter recovery, and you have a lot of people. That's a meaningful amount of people. And then you consider that 5% in relation to how many lives did that save, particularly like we're talking about opioid. So dangerous, right? Somebody goes for treatment for opioid dependence. Those relapses are very scary. So if we can reduce those relapses by 5%, that means a lot at the end of the day.
I agree. You were asking about gaps and celebrating successes, and then I'll circle back around to the family piece. Detox has always been a gap, and post-treatment, good post-treatment housing has always been a gap. Because, once people have the awareness, they're coming forward, they're not afraid to say, hey, I need help. And then they go to treatment, and then where do they go after? And how do they get detoxed if you don't have your own medical detox, if they need it? So some of those gaps. Addiction is a family illness issue. I mean, it impacts the entire family. So I like to say everybody's in recovery. And I love what you do with Familywood, Ross. I love the work you guys do. It's fantastic. Whether
Thanks.
everybody's impacted, everybody's in recovery, whether you've been afflicted or affected. So the whole family changes, because you think about, like, and I grew up in an alcoholic family, right? And I mean, I'm the only one in my family essentially that got out. My parents were sober when they died. I lost 2 siblings in the last 5.5 years, 2 sisters. I was out there killing himself right now,
You were talking there, and I was thinking about your brother.
Yeah, totally. We talked
Yeah.
about that. And so, yeah, I think the number one symptom is denial, and not just for the individual afflicted, but for whole communities and families and companies. And the ones that I think seem to do real well are the ones that are willing to get vulnerable and say, hey, man, we got an issue. Like, I got some buddies in Calgary. These are very big deal guys, the friends of mine. Like, I mean, make me look like Mickey Mouse, how big these guys are in terms of business and global stuff. And they are so incredibly vulnerable and open about their family's issues with addiction.
Struggles. Yeah. I'm on a bit of a mental quest right now,
Yeah.
and have been for the last couple of weeks, to figure out why this is. And somebody said something to me the other day that really got me thinking, which is, we were talking about a lack of research related to addiction and the family system. So Western research journals have a profound gap in terms of how the family system affects addiction. However, that gap does not exist in collectivist cultures. So in particular, India, and we're in this individual mindset, and other countries, India, Spain, like Spanish cultures, they're looking at the community and how the community is impacting addiction. It's just our belief system. The problem's not the system. The problem is the individual, because the individual is responsible for everything, right?
Yeah.
But not necessarily in the First Nations mindsets. You have the drum above you. And I think that community strength that they possess, from your experience, how does the collectivist community mindset of First Nations positively impact addiction recovery?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, would you look at me? I'm not ever going to be the guy to speak as any kind of authority ever on First Nation stuff. So I can only give what I've witnessed. Like,
Anecdotally, yeah.
yeah, just like, I'm not that guy. And I mean, I spent a week up in, we were a couple weeks in northern Iskut and Dease, and, dinner at every community day. They were ready for it. It was awesome. And so when you're talking about building resiliency in an individual, you're talking about love and support. So the more love and support that you can surround the individual with, the better. Now, when we're talking about family support here, because families have had the shit beat out of them by it. You said that they would never do, they ended up doing just to say hi and then go through the back door and steal the company's snowblower. First part of the brain that's impacted by addiction is the executive functioning. And so the individual does all these things and then hates themselves for it when they come to, and it's a vicious cycle. There's two things I say to people from the beginning that you must say to yourself, and I don't care if it's on day 2, but you better start. I forgive you and I love you. And because if you don't start to forgive yourself as a human being for where you've been, you are going to screw up all the good you got coming in your recovery, because you won't think you deserve it. Or use our friends that love us, man, they're just looking at us going, we just stop it. We just love you and we want to support you. So that, the families, my heart breaks. I think we need more Rosses out there to do this kind of work. And the old school of lock the door, wall them out of your life, do that, and set boundaries around your family and around your things like that. You still love them. I love my brother, but I hate the disease. I got him into treatment 3 times, man. Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I got some, fluke call from Facebook, I think, or some message, someone saying, yeah, you better go to the hospital, find your brother. He's in a hospital.
That was in Penticton.
Right. I think he's going to die, and track him down, and that's it. No more. I'm good now. I sent him some money, and then a few weeks later, he's still in the hospital. He's going to, where can I send the money? I'm like, just forget it. It's a gift. That your loved one has an addiction issue when every time they phone you with a new phone number, like you have to put a date. And
what a sad reality.
Yeah, it is sad. The nature of it is it's progressive and it's fatal. And so I think for families that are struggling with their loved one's addiction, Cedars has our Discovery Family program.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, they don't have to have someone here. And funny enough, because it's like, I'm going to go to this family program and I think that I'm going to be able to talk about them. No, I'm talking about me, and I'm dealing with my own stuff, right? I'm dealing with my own stuff. I'm dealing with that gut feel that I have every time.
That's where the work comes into it, though. So at Familywood, one of our measures of success, if you will, is how long it takes the client, the patient, to start talking about themselves. So in an intake session, it's always going to be about the person struggling with addiction. Eventually, we're going to get to a place. I'll speak about a client, actually. After about 11 months, I went, we've been talking for 26 minutes now, and you haven't once mentioned the problems of your person. Do you realize that? That's the shift. I think of it too like a bit of a Venn diagram. They start out, the parents, the spouse, they start out as a full circle of their person. And in a healthy trajectory, they're going to start to separate and have a little bit of overlap, but have their own life too, right? And their own well-being that they're protecting.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. One of the things I love about the work that you guys do is, help people take responsibility for their own lives and empower them.
Well, we are empowered, right? But we don't always see it. And I think you talking about family is I'm going to segue into our 2 kind of recurring weekly segments, Stacey. I should have some music to go along.
Wait, there's more. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ross and Familywood.
No, actually, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Stacey Petersen for our weekly segment. I like to do a spotlight on an organization that's focused on recovery. You being the CEO of Cedars, it makes sense. If you wouldn't mind, for the viewers, we'd love to know about Cedars, what makes you unique, what are the things that you're most proud of, and what's got you excited to come to work every day?
Yeah, all good questions. I want to have something humorous because I'm overtired today, but I'm just going to say, look, Cedars is located in Cobble Hill. We've got 60 acres, this beautiful campus that like I've said, we consider a recovery campus, 20 years old, built by family for families, a father in recovery, long-term recovery, his 2 sons in recovery. And they're interested in recovery and talk about this beautiful campus in this place. But the Cedars movement isn't the buildings. The Cedars movement is the people, right? And, when I think about our culture that we things shift and change. The way I look at it is that none of us are in the Cedars is no different. Believe that every single one of us has a higher power. And I share that same, we'll say 95% of our staff. Matter of fact, we just did a staff survey, big staff survey, and we had over 90% satisfaction from the staff that are here that they absolutely love and feel supported at work. I have to say, know what you do. But so if we're building this culture of, we have to be healthier than the people. Take a kid to a child psychologist. They're going to say, well, if you want a happy kid, you need essence. We're the parents, right? So
Temporary guardians, right? Yeah.
100%. People are going to behave poorly because they're telling you how they feel about themselves. Not as but I mean, if you want to see how I feel about me. So it always puzzled me when clinicians I've worked with in the past were like, did you see how badly they were behaving? Themselves, and this is our job to see. So to make a long story end, I love the fact that we're
and that's through the government of BC.
Yeah, we have Island Health. Reality is you need to be sustainable. You need to keep the lights on. You need to. One of the things I love about this ownership is they don't need this money. It all goes back in. It all goes back in. When I first got here, I think we had about 73 staff. We've expanded, grown. We have 130 plus now.
You manage a team of 130. Wow.
The attrition rate when I got here was, just move on to say that the attrition rate now is like.
You're proud of the current attrition rate is what you're saying.
Because we got to build a place that we want to go. We got to spend a lot of our time together. Like, let's build a place that we want to be. So here's a shout out to anybody that's looking to work in the field. If you can't reach someone's heart, if you can't be genuine and you can't be authentic, then we're not going to have a conversation. But if you come in and you're some clinical practice to that.
Carl Rogers would be so happy to hear you, Stacey. Yeah, really, I think authenticity.
Most important part of the therapeutic relationship is the relationship. If I don't know, just recently heard of a counselor that, and God bless him, man, day one here, came here for help. You're asking for us to help you. Now, that's it. You're also going to have people that are going to come here that you could lay them down on satin sheets, give them filet mignon every night, and they're like, hey, it's not good enough.
He's going to say you can't save everyone, right?
And you can't be all things to all people.
No. There's a market for, I hate to say market, however it makes sense. There's a market for each kind of person out there.
Well, I mean, there's many pathways. And I think you do people a disservice to say, we can do it. No.
I had a real shift on this one a couple months back, meeting with a very high end treatment program that's individualized, and I have to acknowledge, if they're listening, I don't think they'll be too offended. I was a little bit judgmental of it. And a little bit of humility as part of recovery. And the ED said something that got me. He said, our clients have private security because they need to. And can they go to a good center like a Cedars and bring their team of private security? Can they hop on calls that really, really, really matter on a moment's notice? He said, which is the part that really got me, and he said, and if that kind of person doesn't get treatment, then they might die, so they deserve help too. All right, the individualized nature of it.
The only question I have is and how many people go there? But which I think is
there's not a lot, but there is for it, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I do think there's many pathways, and that you're right. That is one. I mean, so Cedars is one of 3 Canadian preferred Betty Ford referral partners.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So we're one of 3 in Canada. And when you go down there and you talk to Jeff and you get the tour and everything, he talks about the movie stars coming in. They're like, I want my own room. And they're like, look, if the first lady can bunk with someone, so can you, right?
Humility.
So,
part of it.
It's like that terminal uniqueness. Do you have it?
Yeah. You understand where I was wrestling. I was like, right. But at the same time, if sharing a room is going to keep them on the streets and you want to bring them one step closer, I think of it maybe akin to harm reduction almost.
So to make that conversation end, I don't have private security, so I don't know what that's like.
Stacey, I'm going to move us to our last segment of the week, which I like to talk about a piece of recent research. Being in the field that we are, I think it's important to stay up on decently current contemporary practices. So today we are going to talk about a group of researchers, Hoag, Shum, McLean, and Bobbick. who published a major evidence review in the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy. These researchers looked at nearly a decade of rigorous randomized controlled trials focusing on family and couples-based therapy for substance use disorders. We talked about what they found earlier, but what they found was striking, and in some was increased or improved outcomes when partners and family members were involved in someone's recovery. Not just a little involved, but meaningfully involved. People are more likely to stay engaged in treatment, reduce substance use, and strengthen their relationships when the family is a part of the healing process. One of the key takeaways from the study included that there was significant fewer relapses as part of someone's treatment, which I talked to you earlier was about 5% increase in success. That may sound like just a statistic, but as we talked about in the real world, that's fewer deaths. The authors emphasize something that we at Familywood believe wholeheartedly. Addiction doesn't just occur in isolation, and recovery shouldn't either. It's all part of the system. You talked about this earlier, Stacey, that addiction is a family disorder. Whether you want to call it a disease, disorder. You've given me a new line, affected or afflicted. So where do you think we need to go as a movement? Let's not call it an industry, but a movement. Where do you think we need to go as a movement as part of keeping families and close to recovery and helping them to recover as well?
If you consider, like, and again, many pathways, right? But one of the pathways is like Al-Anon, Nar-Anon. If we're talking about connected to 12-step recovery, which if you look at John Kelly's work and the Cochrane Review, it basically says 12-step recovery is the most effective on the planet. But you just quoted me, I think, makes perfect sense to me. It's a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, families that are involved do feel when you're having a shit day and the people around you, hey, Ross, man, we got you. We got you.
And know how to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and know when to back off too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think about much of the work we do is related to at Family Work. Much of the work that we do is related to rescuing and I call it buffering, which is minimizing consequences.
Yeah. So you talk about, there's two key parts to it, and not often do we talk about it, but I mean, I haven't met a single person that hasn't been impacted by addiction. Not one. And you're going to, if you have someone that says, I've never been impacted, they're in denial, or they live in a village and skip to work. But if you sit down with them and you talk with them for half an hour and you figure it out, that's where you've been impacted. And if they haven't been personally, they have been financially. So the human case, I think we all get. No more absent fathers, lost sons and daughters, absent mothers, lost sons and daughters, the family connection, people we love, all those. That's the human case. But the business case is very real too. For every one person that you are successful with over the course of a year, you save taxpayers about $100,000 per person. That's in cost avoidance. And we did a study out of the United States. We analyzed the organization and we did a sample group, graduates that, had completed and they were part of the alumni and all that. And then they said that for every $1 that goes into treatment between 17 and 23 goes back. And they said, well, the public can never believe it. So let's just apples to apples. Let's make it $1 in, $6 out. Give me an investment that does that. And so huge financial impact for society when we get clean, not just for the individual afflicted, but for those affected. Think about the time you've missed from work because of the person that you.
Yeah, the disconnection that it's caused, right? I appreciate you, Stacey, and I'm very much aligned with your mindset. I'm also very appreciative of what you're doing at Cedars. You really care, like visibly care, and like much of us in the
like I think Ross, what I want to say to people is like addiction is a shitty thing, and it's a robber, and it's going to steal a lot from you, and it's stolen a lot from me. You know what I mean? 296 million people afflicted on the planet, and I got this chair, you got that chair. And why wouldn't we spend every single day above ground grateful for the opportunity?
Be singing amen, hallelujah. Yeah. You've met me. I'm a pretty upbeat individual, high energy individual. And people often ask me, like, where does it come from? It comes from, I bounce out of bed every morning at 4:30 and sometimes I'm tired. But Stacey, I'm just really grateful.
Made it.
And really, really, I think you can really recognize my privilege in being where I am today and the gifts of recovery, and hopeful to be able to share that with as many people as we possibly can, right?
And I think, to say to your viewers that are interested in hooking up to Familywood for some family work, I think I want to say do it. And I want to say, if you have somebody that's still struggling, I want to say it's like, we know. And yes, there is a solution. And so long as that individual is still upright and breathing, like there's a chance. And I can tell you right now that I didn't whistle down the path to recovery when everything was okay. I didn't wake up one day and I was like, yeah, no, what I'm going to do. And relapse was part of my story. And so, I don't think people trusted me until I was a few years clean.
Yeah. 2 or 3 years. That's part of my work with families. The people in recovery, I hope one day they'll appreciate the work that we do in helping their family to take deep breaths and build up resilience and patience, because it takes a year or 2 or 3 or 4 for really stable recovery that's bankable to come out. And the consequences,
And
the families and the person in recovery, they're working on consequences for often 1, 2, 3, 5 years.
yeah,
I certainly was.
yeah,
Yeah. I remember the day I made my last financial amends, and I think I was and I was making them, and I think it was 7 years.
yeah. And I don't think I could put a phone in my own name. Yeah, it was so wild. Mind you, when I got clean, we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like a good addict, every family and friend got hit up, and they needed to be made whole, right? So, Stacey, really great to talk with you. I couldn't imagine how busy your calendar is, which is my way of saying thank you for your very valuable busy time, and hope you have a good afternoon with a good sleep tonight.
Yeah, for sure, Ross. Yeah, no, I am dragging it a bit today, and but I appreciate you, man. And I think you're one of those guys. You're a good human. Oh, listen, if you want help with your family, call Ross.
Thanks, Stacey. Thanks.
Right.